I'm just remembering a story that had to do with the signature of the Camp David Accord in Washington. 24 hours before signing the peace treaty with Egypt in Washington, I had the honor to accompany my father in New York to visit Prime Minister Begin at the Regency Hotel. At the time, my father created a symbol of peace between Egypt and Israel. That symbol caught the attention of the Prime Minister in a very singular way, and he invited my father to come and visit with him just a few hours before him leaving for Washington to sign that historical peace agreement with Egypt. We spent about an hour with the Prime Minister and his secretary advisor, Menachem Kadishai. I remember this moment like almost as if it happened yesterday. It was, for me, being with my father in presence of Menachem Begin, Prime Minister Menachem Begin, a hero of the Jewish story, in a way that very few people have ever achieved the recognition in history that this man has acquired. It was just incredible. I remember the attention and the kindness of this man hours before he will be going to meet with President Carter and Anwar al-Sadat in Washington, and to have the honor to hear the story, to hear his comments on the agreement. My father brought to him an artwork that was this illustration of how Agam perceived peace between Egypt and Israel. It was a symbol of the Islamic crescent together with the Jewish star, and it was something that Agam has worked a few weeks before, and the Prime Minister looked at it and he was absolutely enamored by the idea. And in fact, I think he signed a few of these pieces, to give to my father, but also took a few of these pieces with him to Washington, which I would think that he gave one to Sadat and one to President Carter. But these moments, these historical moments where being with the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, the hero that he was, and sharing these moments, something that, of course, I wanted to share with you because, nobody knows that we were there a few hours before the signature of this peace agreement, and I remember these moments, in the suite of the Prime Minister at the Regency, with all these bodyguards all around him, in the hotel, and the emotion and the seriousness and the gravity that the man had, knowing that he was doing something that no Jewish leader has ever done in the history of the Jewish people, to sign an agreement, with an Arab country. Oh, God, if I have like a tremor in me just remembering this instance, and I just, today I was thinking about putting this on video so that I could express and remind, a lot of you about what it represented and what my father did at this particular time in history, where he created so many of these symbols that were bringing people together and nations together at a level of history that very few artists had ever participated. Many occasions after, Agam has met President Sadat, and he offered him, some of these symbols. And years later, even when we were invited to meet President Reagan, Agam has given him the Star of Peace which was a sculpture that was the Jewish star together with the Islamic crescent, and it was an incredible moment when President Reagan received this piece and put it in the White House years after Menachem Begin signed this agreement. And also remember another story when President Reagan had a state dinner for Menachem Begin, Prime Minister Menachem Begin, and my father was invited there. And there was hundreds of people there commemorating this event, this state dinner at the White House. And my father went to see President Reagan, and he talked to him, and he showed him a piece of glass that he had in his hands, and he took this piece of glass and put it against the chandelier, and the president was like, "Whoo!" He was like impressed and amused, and he was smiling, and he told my father he saw Jewish stars all over the White House, because what my father created was an hologram on a very small piece of glass that when you put it against the light, you would see Jewish stars. And he did it in the White House in the presence of a state dinner, and everybody after, was talking about it, and I think, that this is one of the most memorable events that I remember my father talking about it. I was not there, but many, many people relayed that thing to me. So, I was talking about the peace treaty, and now I was talking about the Star of Peace that my father created, that was given to President Sadat, to Menachem Begin, and later, because he didn't have the occasion to give it to President Carter, it was given to President Reagan, who put it in the White House for many, many years, for 8 years, in fact, of his presidency. It was sitting on a desk at the White House. I mean, that's another one of the stories that I have, and I think I will keep going with more stories as long as I can, because I think these are memories that, I remember, but very few people know about it, but they're worth sharing, I think. You tell me. Thank you.